to like ask a lot of questions that I'd like
Is
to...
my speech slow? Does it sound like I've been drinking? Is that it?
I'd like to actually open up the floor because this is really for the community. So if you are interested, we do have an extra mic go from somewhere, right? I guess not. It's okay. So if we can hear you, so your name, what you're working on, and your question, please. So
I'm Nima Delmapani. I'm the founder of Yumdum. Yumdum is a Pandora for food. And the question for you is that I was talking to a Fortune 100 person in charge of marketing for that company. And they said that for next year, they're going to spend 10% of their advertising budget for mobile. But they were like, but I don't know where to spend that money because everything there sucks. The banner ads don't work and so on and so forth. So what advice would you have for my Fortune 100 person?
I think it's the wrong way around. For you can easily tell it's a Fortune 100 company. The way and we have the privilege of being involved with some companies who are now of that stature, but they were very, very young when we first got in touch with them, and they wouldn't be thinking like this. But to say that you want to spend 10% of your budget on mobile and set that as a goal without understanding truly what that is doing for your brand or for bringing in new customers and for your business more broadly, I think is a bit of a misnomer. I agree though, 100% with the comment that on mobile, advertising is still in its early days. Those banner ads, which of course we were a part of in creating that market with AdMob, that's still generation 1. And there are many, many more iterations to come because we haven't found an effective mode of advertising on mobile. If you look at Google and display advertising on the web, I think the web developers, in many senses, had life easy from a business model perspective. You look at a company like Facebook, they had to innovate on a consumer proposition and get plenty of users and time on site. They didn't really have to invent a whole new business model. Google, it turns out, did invent a new business model. But Facebook, Yahoo, a bunch of other companies didn't have to invent something new because they knew that they could just attract users, get them on their site for hours a day, and advertise to them. Well, the bad news is for all of you, on mobile, it's a different story. It's not like you can just get plenty of users and then put banner ads on your app. It's a bit of a terrible experience, and that's why when I talk about some companies like Evernote and Dropbox, they have thought about different ways to create a real business on the mobile device. So your comment about the mobile advertising industry, I couldn't agree with more. To the person at the Fortune 100 company, I don't have a solution for them, unfortunately. They're going to have to be a bit more creative with the way that they try to advertise on mobile. I mean, a lot of brands will have a mobile experience that they would want their users or their customers to share in. And some of them may not be thinking quite down the road yet, but they'll get there eventually because the amount of time that we're going to spend on these devices, it's just going to trump the amount of time we spend on the internet and the amount of time we spend on television.
So on that note, before we go into the second question, I do want to kind of quickly to make sure that all of us are on the same page in terms of that potential way of making money. So obviously advertising. What are some of the other things, like subscription, just to make sure that we're all on the same page on that you have seen?
Yeah, so mobile businesses are incredibly varied. You've seen freemium models work, in-app payments models work. Advertising, as far as banner ads, to some extent, a free version and a paid version, ad-supported, or even audio ads. In the case of Pandora, we have a company called TuneIn Radio, which is a similar type of camp where there are all these expanded set of opportunities. There may be a transaction-based model. There may be a search syndication type of model. It's not a simple plug a display ad on your website type of equation on mobile. And that actually makes it more interesting. But it just means that you have a bit of work to do to figure out what makes sense for your particular application.
Yeah, very much so. Go that way.
Thanks. Hi, Tim. Sorry for stealing the comfy seat today. Hopefully that was okay together. All right. My name's Kyle. I work for an advertising company, but working on all sorts of mobile apps. You mentioned...
Maybe you should answer the last question about Fortune 100.
I hear that same thing all the time. It's a big initiative to spend 10%, 20% of budget on mobile. Budget's moving there, so our job is to figure out how to actually make that happen, and we're trying as best we can. So sorry, I can't give you a much better answer than that. But I had a question about, you mentioned that all these inputs give us sort of new ways people can interact with their devices and maybe with the web and other people. Social in general is a hot topic, and on mobile I think that there's a lot of opportunities to do new things in social. And right now it's mostly niche things like Grindr, let's say. It's a new way to interact, right? But it's on mobile. What other sort of bigger, more accessible opportunities do you think there are on mobile social market?
Well, I think the interesting thing about mobile is that when it comes to social, I don't think anyone's really cracked the nut there yet. Find your friends or social dating applications may be a start, and when you think about any industry, oftentimes those are some of the leading indicators. They get there first, together with the gamers who use many of the device attributes which I talk about. The mobile phone, though, the device is incredibly personal, and I think that leads to something pretty interesting. 10 years ago, you'd probably be happy sharing a PC with other members of your family, maybe even other members, other colleagues at work. And you would probably have been happy at that point in time, 10 years back, if you had a cell phone, giving it to a relative if they came to visit for a trip to your neighborhood, right? Leave it with them for a couple of days. How awkward is it today if you hand someone else your phone? Who would do that? Anyone volunteer to swap phones with the person sitting next to them? Probably not. So it's incredibly personal, yet I don't think we've found a way to connect that in a social setting appropriately yet. And of course there are lots of questions around privacy and what the limits should be. Those envelopes will be pushed as people get more and more comfortable with what the technology should be. But one example which I think people don't think all that much about, I'm involved in a company called WhatsApp. It's an SMS replacement, and to some you could say it replaces a use case that is out there already. It's very large internationally and increasingly so here in the US. But that's a really important social network. The people on your address book and the people who you are willing to send a text message to, out of the people here in this room, my guess is that most of you would say, and disagree with me if this isn't the case by raising your hand, most of you, I would guess, would only text message maybe a dozen, 2 dozen people at most. Is that right? Anyone text message more than that?
No.
And that says something really interesting about the people who you're really close to. And the mobile device actually has a lot of this social information. Oftentimes on Facebook, if you have 1,000 friends, that doesn't really say all that much about who you are anymore, or who you're really interacting with. And so there's a lot that I look for in terms of ideas. I don't have all of them myself, but when entrepreneurs come in, there are a lot of things which can still be done on top of the mobile, which are social. And I'm not going to tell you some of the ideas I hear, but I can tell you plenty of people are working on this.